Am I getting the
آوری کنون ببندیم.
لطفاً همه صداهاتون رو میوت کنید لطفاً. Everybody please mute your audio.
Women have feel empowered. There's been the Me Too movement. There's been young girls and boys that are campaigning for climate change. I think that women have been campaigning to have close the gender pay gap, but we still have a lot to do.
Sorry, Masood, can you unmute your video?
Thousands of women across Iran came together to celebrate International Women's Day in 1979. We were 4 French women who spent a week with Iranian women in their marches, sit-ins, and meetings. Many of us in Paris, Lyon, Bordeaux, and Marseille did as much as we could to introduce the movement of Iranian women to the world. We reflected the women's movement on a daily basis. We, members of the Movement for Liberation of Women in France, declare that when Iranian women come to the scene of movement, it indicates freedom and emancipation for women around the world. Chants of women are, I say it every moment, I say it under the torture, either death or freedom. Freedom is not an Eastern or Western.
Thank you for that video, Masood.
Welcome.
That was beautiful. Welcome everyone, all the people that just joined us during the video. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. We would like to get officially started now. Kristen is my co-host. She'll be introducing herself. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to everybody who is in attendance this afternoon. I want to welcome you all to this event. We have many great, powerful, and resilient women who have come from all different walks of life here today to share some of their stories and their realities with us all. I'd just like to take a few moments to introduce myself. So my name is Kristan, and I am a Kurdish woman from Western Iran. Although I'm very fortunate to have grown up and live in a society that deems women to be equal to men, women are granted the same rights as men. I know that unfortunately that is not the case for other parts of the world. For centuries, women have been pushed to the outer edges of society and marginalized in perhaps every single way imaginable, from healthcare to education and all the way to even having the right to make decisions regarding their own body. But through our continual fight, the tide has lifted for many women around the world, but unfortunately far too women have been left behind and are still denied basic rights. We must continue to educate our communities and all those around us to the atrocities that are happening to women all around the world. And we must be a continued voice for those who are not able to speak up for themselves. There's definitely a long way to go, but as long as we are standing, we shall give a hand to those who have fallen. And I'd like Bobby to introduce himself.
Thank you, Kristen. That was beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name is Bobby. I am considered myself very lucky to be here today with you all who recognize that equality is yet to be achieved and have the courage and ability to speak up and speak out about what's really going on. I consider myself lucky to be living in a country where by law women are considered equal, yet the reality says otherwise. In many places in the world, women are yet to have rights, have yet to have the freedom to express themselves however they wish. I was born in one of those countries, a country that still does not consider women as full citizens, a country that keeps women from opportunity and freedom. And I hope all of us here today speak out against that and try to change the rights for all the women in the world. Thank you. And also to let everyone know that we are streaming live on YouTube. If you'd like to share the link with your friends and family, it's in the chat.
Perfect, thanks, Bobby. So today we have speakers at our International Women's Day event who come from different parts of the globe. They have represented women's universal rights for decades. The theme today is postmodernism and cultural relativism. And we kindly ask all our speakers, we kindly ask that if you are not speaking, that you remain muted. And we also kindly ask our speakers to keep their talks between 3 to 5 minutes. We are so excited to hear all the talks today. But now I will introduce Tammy to do the land acknowledgement. So Tammy Starlight. Tammy, would you like to introduce yourself? I feel I'm gonna butcher these names. And I feel
that's why I'm here.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy International Non-Cis Women's Day. I am Tammy Starlight. I am Nahaya, which is the original term for our people on the center of Turtle Island, which is now called North America. We're also called Cree. There are many different indigenous nations on Turtle Island, North America. And the ones in particular where we are all on, or most of us are on this call. And I am here to acknowledge the territory that we are on, which is the unceded Coast Salish. And that includes the Musqueam to the north, the Tsleil-Waututh to the inlet, and the Musqueam to the south. And they're all family related, and they've been here for thousands and thousands of years. And there's interior Salish, there's many different nations. And so knowing where you are is absolutely important. Knowing that Canada is a pretty new country, a colony of Britain, and not everybody is, especially Indigenous, are completely okay with what's happening. And we share a lot of similar struggles with everybody around the world, which is dealing with colonization. So that's my introduction into the territory and Indigenous relations locally, all my relations. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tammy, for doing the land acknowledgement. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Robinson. So Dr. Robinson is a professor, a proud member of the Métis Nation of British Columbia. She earned her PhD from the Department of Educational Studies at UBC. She deeply values the role of Indigenous knowledge within institutions of higher learning and believes that sharing our stories is both empowering and significant. So Dr. Robinson, the floor is yours. Is she here? Does anybody know?
Probably she's not. So maybe we move to next one.
Oh, she's not here. Sorry, I thought she was here. Okay, we can move to the next one. Bobby?
Okay. I think next we have a quick video about the history of Women's Day. Is that correct, Masood?
Yes, yeah.
It's only 2 minutes.
Thank you for that, Masood. That was beautiful. Amazing. That was the brief history of International Women's Day. Next, I would like to introduce our next speaker is Claire Robillard. Claire, her pronouns are she, her, and identifies as a lesbian who walks in solidarity with the LGBTQ community. She became involved in the Vancouver IWD organizing committee in 1994 until 2008, and worked for 25 years supporting and advocating for people with disability, and is now happily retired. Claire?
Hello, Salah.
Hi, Claire, are you here? I think I saw you. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, I'm here. Thanks. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you for the honor of giving a little speech on International Women's Day. As several of you people in this room today know, I became involved with International Women's Day when I moved here. It was the first political organization I joined. So that was in the fall of 1993. And yeah, I continued to be on the organizing committee from 1993 to 2008. I just thought maybe because there's a lot of speakers today that can speak to many things, and I think that the theme of cultural relativism will speak for itself, and I think you have a lot of people that can speak to that. So I thought I'd just give a little snippet of what's happened here in Vancouver over many years. So the IWD committee, as the committee today, this year, last year, is formed by a collective of, I'm not sure if it's just women on the collective now, but certainly it was when I was participating on the committee. As the numbers grew, so did the competing differences in what political agenda should be. I'm sure it won't come as a surprise to anyone here that the left can be very divided. In 1997, the IWD committee decided we needed to really firm down what our political principles were. And so a group of us got together, put something on paper, and then it was agreed to by the committee. And from that point forward, that's how we decided things. And those were the basic ways in which decisions got made. So I thought I would just read part of those principles today. So I'll just start. We are an ongoing committee made up of women representing the various parts of the women's movement in Vancouver and surrounding areas. Our membership includes women groups, pro-women groups, and individual women who all join the International Women's Day Committee to participate in the creation of a day of action around March 8th each year. We have chosen a coalition structure that emphasizes diversity, a commitment to mutual understanding, cooperation, and enrichment of all our political theories by working together on IWD. We uphold the principles of feminism and work towards winning us a world where women have rightful control over their lives. This is symbolized by the IWD bread and roses. We have a right to survival, bread, as well as joy, roses. Women among us and women with whom we wish to share the struggle experience oppression and discrimination by gender as well by other forces. Therefore, we hold agreement to the following points. We agree to fight racism. We uphold the principle of justice for people of color and First Nations people. We agree to fight classism and imperialism, which many women experience as poverty, economic, or capitalist oppression. We agree that as women, we have a right to control our own bodies. This means we support women's right to reproductive control, including the right to abortion. The right to control our bodies' lives must therefore also address the right to choose one's sexual and life partners. We oppose heterosexism and homophobia. We agree to fight ableism.
Sorry about that, Claire.
Yeah, somebody needs to mute themselves. Okay. We agree to fight ableism. We oppose the discrimination of women with visible and invisible disabilities. We agree to fight against all forms of religious fundamentalism and fanaticism. So we basically also sorted out our structure for decision making, but basically it was consensus, but if we couldn't agree, we voted. And that's kind of how it all worked out. Sorry, I lost my text here. So the IWD rallies were held in many places over the years. The Vancouver Art Gallery, Victory Square, BCIT, Granville Park, and many other places. We marched downtown, we marched on Hastings, we marched on Commercial Drive, we marched on Kingsway, we marched on Main Street, and many more places. And we never gave up, never giving our right to protest under pressure from the Vancouver Police Board, who at some point in time fined us $6,000 for police costs during our rallies. And also basically they were trying to put pressure on us to obtain a permit. We fought the fine and charges in court and we won. The police board dropped the charges and never pressured us again to get a permit to have a political protest. Imagine. We also fought the anti-abortionists who used to come to our rallies and also came to one of the first meetings I attended in the Vancouver Status of Women. And I remember Sissy Von Den was there taking pictures because that's what they would do. And put up, we covered the windows so that, because many of the women there were quite fearful of being publicly denounced for organizing. And several years later, Sissy Von Den took two of us to court for physical assaulting her. And actually, we never assaulted her. We just tried to take her camera, which she had squeezed underneath her body. We never did hurt her. But anyways, that court was also, we won that court case too. However, both for fighting the police and for fighting the anti-abortionists, we had considerable debt to pay. So the committee also, after the IWD rallies and marches, we would hold dances. Every year we held a dance. We also procured a venue for the information tables. And we had at times up to 30, maybe 40 organizations who booked tables. And I just thought I would read a list of the groups that would join us, just a sampling. We had the Women in Prison Support Group. We had the BCGEU, Community Social Services component. NAC was there, the Vancouver Status of Women, Vancouver Rape Relief, Battered Women's Support Services, Oxfam Canada, Canada Women for Women in Afghanistan, the South Community Birth Program, Grassroots Women, the Philippines Women's Center, POVNet, Vancouver Women's Health Collective, the BCNU, Canadian Harambee Education Society, Amnesty International, the NDP Women's Right Committee, the Trotskyist League, the CJSF Campus Community Radio, Youth Third World Alliance, Communist Party of BC, the Asian Society for the Intervention of AIDS, Réseau Femmes from Colombie-Britannique, Women's Elders, HEU, and so on. But all of that to say that there were many, many groups that came to the IWD marches and rallies. And yeah, it was quite a vibrant event that happened every year. When we had the information tables, we went to the Vancouver Library, the Kingsgate Mall, BCIT, Vancouver Community College, Britannia School, and many more. I'll just wrap up my speech here. So we didn't always get our way on the collective. We didn't always agree. The poster's too soft looking, the slogans need to be more political, this speaker would be better than the other person, who is going to give the IWD address. But we did our best to arrive at a decision based on our political principles. We learned that despite our differences, we were united for our rights of all women. I'll end with the most precious political statement I have ever read. And that is that class consciousness is about knowing which side of the fence you're on. Class analysis is about knowing who is there with you. Thank you.
Bravo, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. Thank
Love
you.
you.
That was amazing. Thank you for everything you've done and everything you do. Questan will be introducing our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Claire, and for the continued work that you've done and all the work that you have done for International Women's Day. So thank you very much. Next, I'd like to introduce Nikki. She is a pianist and a student and women's rights activist from Iran.
You want to share the piano?
Yes, please, Masood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion about if you're going to share screen?
Yeah.
To get a better sound?
Yeah, but tell me, please.
So whoever is sharing screen,
Yeah.
if you look at go to the top and if you hit the advance command,
Yeah.
and then you go to the one sound, it's at the top, right? It's at the top in the middle.
Yeah.
After you hit advanced, then you'll see 3 commands. One says sound. It's got a speaker, select that, and then click share. And the sound will come through the computer instead of your mic, and you'll have a much better sound.
Okay. I have to see how I'm going to do that.
But it has to be the person sharing screen that does it.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it?
사무실, heresy.
That was beautiful, and that was Nikki from Iran playing the piano for us.
Yes, thank you. So next I'd like to introduce Alicia Barcelo. So Alicia is a feminist, human and immigrant rights and city activist. She obtained her Bachelor of Education and her Bachelor of Laws from the University of British Columbia. She is the author of the paper Immigrant Women and the Politics of Difference, published by the Committee for Equality for Immigrants and New Canadians, and of the paper Visitor Visas, the Stamp of Inequality, published by the Manitoba Law Journal. Her most recent essay, entitled Time to Free Ourselves from the Postmodernist Quagmire, Time for Women's Rights, is a critique of the use of postmodernism to discredit and discourage feminist collective action. It is also a condemnation of cultural relativism. So Alicia Barcelo, the floor is yours. Thank you. Alicia, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to start by saying how happy I am that we have Claire with us today. I haven't seen her for ages, and I'm very happy to be able to see her today. I don't know. I came here, and I have to note that she organized International Women's Day rallies for more than a decade and a half, even when the collective struggle alive kept
Alicia, your bandwidth is really low. We cannot hear you, Alicia.
Close other program.
Can you close some other programs so your bandwidth will go better so we can hear you? Please.
I think she's frozen and disconnected. Okay, everyone, it looks like Alicia had to disconnect. We'll move on and come back to Alicia when she comes back. So next speaking is Mariam Namazi. Mariam is an Iranian-born writer, activist. She's the spokesperson for One Law for All and on the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain. She has spoken and written numerous articles on women's rights issues, on free expression, Islamism, and secularism. Mariam has also worked on numerous campaigns, including campaigns against stoning, execution, sexual apartheid, and women's rights violations, particularly in Islamic societies. Some of the successes include campaign against the Sharia court in Canada, and she has been awarded numerous awards on secularism, freedom from religious fundamentalism, freedom of speech, and human rights. Mariam?
Great, thank you very much, Bobby. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I know we've got a lot of talks to go through, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. I thought briefly maybe I can raise a couple of points about cultural relativism. I think one of the huge problems around cultural relativism is that it sees culture as a monolith. It doesn't see the fact that culture is always changing. People are always challenging culture. They're always revising it, reviewing it, changing it to suit their lives. And very often when cultural relativists look at a certain culture, they usually see the culture of the dominant class, a culture that's often imposed by force, rather than a culture as something that's constantly changing and not static. And I think that's one of the huge problems about cultural relativism, is that it aids the ruling elite in any given society at the expense of people who are challenging and resisting regressive cultural rules. Iran is a great case in point. You have a theocracy which is anti the working class, but you have a vibrant working class movement. It's a theocracy that is anti-woman. One of its pillars is misogyny against women, and yet you've got a vibrant women's liberation movement in that country. So clearly there is a discrepancy, a big discrepancy between what the state's culture is versus what the people's culture is. And also when you defend cultural relativism, it's a question of defending, let's say, stoning laws versus defending women who are going to be stoned. And I think that is something that we need to seriously criticize when we want to defend women's rights. Now, the issue also here is that it's not just some on the left, and I say this as someone on the left myself, that demands respect for culture and cultural practices, that sees culture as a monolith, but the white nationalists and the far right do this as well. And so we are seeing a rise of white identity politics, the idea that all lives matters when we're faced with a real and legitimate Black Lives Matter movement, for example, and how the white working class has also is also being used as a form of identity politics in order to both play victim, but also to promote sort of supremacist politics. And I think one of the things about cultural relativism is that it can be a continuation of ethnocentrism as well, because when you see another culture as different than yours, it does promote ideas of difference as well as superiority, and it could be a double-edged sword. So I think when it comes to the issue of cultural relativism as well as identity politics, it can be very dangerous when it comes to defending the rights of minorities, free thinkers, dissidents, and women, especially because women are often seen to be the extensions of national and religious and cultural pride, honor, and so on and so forth. And so they face the most restrictions when culture the dominant culture is respected, and when the struggles and social and political movements within any society is disregarded in order to respect culture at all costs. I think the only other point I'd like to add here is that there is this problem that when you respect culture, you also not only see the resistance, but you've got the far right, as well as those promoting white nationalist politics that then portray all people from the Middle East, from North Africa, from South Asia, from minority backgrounds as regressive, misogynist, as people who are so-called savages, and it feeds into a xenophobic and anti-immigrant agenda. So you've got people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is an ex-Muslim like myself, who has just recently written a book called Pray, where she advocates for an end to migration of Muslim men or men from Muslim majority countries, as if misogyny is in the DNA of all those fleeing the Middle East and North Africa and South Asia. So I think with this sort of cultural relativism, you see both the far right using it and postmodernist leftists using it at the expense of people and their lives, and particularly women and their rights. And I think it is hugely important for us to stress the concept of universal women's rights. I know very often we hear that women's rights, when we speak of women's rights within a universal context, that there is the accusation that it is a colonial viewpoint, it's a Western viewpoint. And I'd just like to end by saying that this always only comes up when it is related to women's rights and lives. You know, the Iranian regime will never say it doesn't want nuclear technology because it's Western. The Saudi government will never say that it doesn't want to use the latest advances in, let's say, you know, vaccinations because they are Western. But they will, when it comes to women's rights, say that it's Western and therefore women from Muslim majority countries and from the Middle East and North Africa and South Asia aren't deserving of them. And I think going back to the slogans of women's movements from the beginning of the revolution, you know, very clearly women's rights are not Eastern, they're not Western, and they are universal. And I think for a women's liberation movement, it's hugely important to push back cultural relativism and to defend the universality of women's rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
I see that Alicia is back. Sorry about that, Alicia. I'm not sure what happened. Your connection just kind of,
I think my Wi-Fi may have gone out.
Right.
I apologize.
No worries at all. If you'd like to speak, the floor is now yours.
Yeah. May I speak now?
Yep, for sure.
Okay. I see, is Claire with us still? Claire Robillard? Have we lost Claire?
No, she's still here.
Claire is here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Claire is here.
I'm here.
Where are you, Claire? Raise your hand. Because I want you to hear me say that, to me, keeping the torch alive for a decade and a half is a major accomplishment. And it meant a lot to people like myself who I could say were born feminist and then conditioned feminist and all that. Anyway, thank you very much. I also want to thank this IWD committee for doing this fantastic job for many years now. And the fact that you were kind enough to look at the question I posed through the essay that I submitted to you and decided to dedicate this International Women's Day celebration to mark the beginning of a fight against cultural relativism. And I don't think I need to speak too much about it. I mean, let's put it in very few words. We know what it is. It is an excuse. It is a way, a creed that excuses discrimination against women, discrimination of the worst kind against women on the basis that it happens in a culture other than ours. So it is a tremendously irrational point of view that has unfortunately taken hold in Canada and in many other places. But as far as we're concerned, we live in a country where this sort of thinking has infected government agencies, courts of law, academic journals, and well-intentioned people themselves have found themselves in the middle of a world that said, forget about the struggles of the 60s. Forget about the feminists of the 60s and their writings and what they did. They were just trying to impose their own ideas on the rest of the world. And their claim that nobody can speak for anybody else was used cleverly against women's rights. As some of what Miriam said, I totally agree with the use of these culture, place, country in order to divide and prevent women from rallying around issues that are obviously rights. And they're like human rights, they are rights that ought to be universal. And no girl in any culture asks to be mutilated. No girl in any culture asks to be married by force. No young woman in any country asks to be beaten and forced and even killed if they don't do what the parents or the community says. And this kind of thing is happening right here in Canada. And it is being, and the government is looking elsewhere when it happens, is not applying the weight of the law on those criminals, because this thing called cultural relativism, this whole creed, has taken over. And so these people can break the law and be treated with leniency simply because they're supposed to belong to a different culture. I applaud you. We need to take this on head on. One of the, this committee is organizing a forum that hopefully will become a bit of a debate so that it can be interesting and fiery and everything like that, and make waves, because at this point, I think we need to make waves. More than getting everybody to agree, we need to get everybody thinking about this issue in my mind. We need all the women's organizations. We have now a number of women's organizations that are doing more of a kind of a helping work. I haven't found that there's a lot of activism for rights right now. Now that we have a different reality. Immigrant women in Canada have the urgency to put this on the floor. And in Latin America, we have Argentinian women winning abortion rights in the land of the Pope. It seems that the vanguard of the struggle has shifted. In North America, in the United States, abortion rights are on the brink of being lost for about half of the states of the United States. Donald Trump filled the United States Supreme Court with very anti-abortion judges. So there is still the danger that there might be a legal suit that will end making it possible for about half of the American states to make abortion completely illegal. So while in North America, there has been this low in feminist collective action, in other places like South America, in Argentina, in particular, they're winning rights for women. And so we shouldn't think any less of the fact that perhaps in Vancouver now, it's immigrant women who begin to rock the boat. And that's fine, because our non-immigrant sisters need us. They need us, and the push can come from whichever corner. And the point is that we shouldn't lose sight that we need to unite around very specific things. In this case, I think we can take the help from anyone who opposes cultural relativism and who is willing to raise it in the courts, to oppose it and question it in legal journals, in activist forums, in mass rallies, everywhere. I think I'm going to end there. Just to tell you, it's time for feminist revival. It's time for collective action, for fundamental rights for all women, regardless of where women are born, what religion they have or may not have, ethnicity, and things like that. So thank you very much for having me here today. And I hope to see you all, plus the people we can invite, at our forum this upcoming Saturday, March 13th at 1 p.m. Vancouver time. Thanks.
Nice.
Thank you, Alicia.
That was very good.
Thank you. And yes, there is a forum happening next week. Alicia will be talking regarding her essay and what she talked about today. If anyone is free and would like to join us, we will post the link, the information for that forum in the chat.
And hopefully not just me, we are dead set on getting at least 3 other people who feel passionately or who've written or who've, and I'd love to see Claire to be one of them. Perhaps we can make her an invitation later, but I think she has to be one of them. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Alicia. Next, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Patty. So Patty is a human rights activist with a focus on women's rights and equality. She has been involved in a number of campaigns, such as Save Sakina, which stopped the stoning of Sakina Ashtiani in the Iranian Solidarity Movement. So Patty, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Happy International Women's Day. I wanted to briefly talk about from the perspective of somebody who was born and raised in Europe, in Germany. So when I went to school in the 1980s, we had in my hometown, in my area in Germany, we had a lot of Turkish migrant workers. And of course, these migrant workers, they brought their families, they had children in Germany. So I went to school with Turkish boys and girls. And also in my area, not far from me, there were a lot of Turkish families living. So these Turkish girls especially, they were still under the obligation of this gender-based restrictions and obligation to show some kind of modesty in a lot of time. But then what happened, they would go out when they could, and they would dress as they pleased, and they would wear makeup. And before they would go back home, they would change their clothes, they would take off their makeup somewhere, private, and then they would go home. So 30 years later, we are in Europe and we are being told you have to be silent, you can't criticize. You know, this is a Western ideology, this is Western culture, whether you criticize within Germany, Sweden, or Britain, or whether you criticize these things in other countries. So, and what are we criticizing? When we are talking about like criticizing these things, it's not that we are talking about how people dance or what they eat. What we're really talking about, what it always comes down to, is women's rights, violations of women's rights and girls' rights. So we are told, be quiet. You can't say anything about this. It is not fair. So this is, of course, never really a problem when it comes to, for example, implementing international work safety standards, or when we have an Indian man, a Bangladeshi, a Libyan, an Iraqi man coming to work in Germany. There is no talk about that they should not have paid sick leave, paid holidays, pension, healthcare. This is not a problem. The only problem always is the total cultural taboo is women's rights. So we have, for example, in Germany, in Sweden, in Britain, in Italy, many other places around the world as well, we have protection of young girls, of children's right protection as well. So, for example, a German girl of 13 years, she is protected by the law from underage sex, from child marriage. And then what we have seen in the last couple of years, a Syrian girl, a 13-year-old Syrian girl comes to Germany, and suddenly there is this big debate. She's a child bride. Is this correct? Is this not correct? So where is the protection of that girl there? Why we are suddenly, her rights are relative? There are good reasons why we have child protection laws. And for me, I wonder, what is the reason that, you know, I'm born in Germany and, you know, I should enjoy these rights, this protection. But then if I had been born in Syria and I would come 5 years later, 2 months later to Germany, suddenly there is this big debate about my rights, about a girl's right. You know, it is Europe right now we have to look at, and you wonder what's going on. When you go, for example, on the streets, you know, on a hot summer day in some European countries, and you see, you know, a family, you know, boys and girls, daughters, sons and stuff. And, you know, the girls triple layer, they have to fully cover up, and the boys in shorts and t-shirts. Well, I think what's going on there, it bothers me because I know it is because they have the obligations and the restrictions because they are girls, no other reason. But Big Brother voice in my head tells me, no, you can't say anything. This is wrong. You should not criticize. And I understand in a way where this comes from, because it's to stem, you know, to fight against racism, to further integration. To a point that's very good, but it goes this way is totally wrong. Because I would, you know, it cannot be that you stop people from saying out loud what the rights they enjoy themselves, because it is somebody who happens to be born in a different environment, coming from a different place. And I wonder, how can I be silent? How can I not speak up when I know that around the world, in many countries where women do not have equal rights under the law, where there are vast movements of women and men standing up for decades for their rights. But in Germany, in Britain, I am told, be quiet. A lot of people have these issues in their head because certain sections in society, certain groups and the government, they know what they are doing when they tell us, be quiet. They have not the welfare of these people at heart. They have their own interests at heart. So I'm thinking, how can I be quiet? Why should I be quiet? We in Europe, in other places, we have left, for example, the influence of the church and the influence of the monarchy well behind us. There is still a lot more work to do, but we're enjoying a lot of freedoms and rights. And I'm thinking, why do we not want other people, everybody across the world, to be able to enjoy the same rights? Why should I be silent? I won't be silent. I can't. Thank you very much.
That was amazing. Thank you, Patty. You're very right. You know, whenever any country where women do better, we all do better. Everyone does better. And it should be equal rights for everyone. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Shiva Mojave. Shiva is a women's rights activist, spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners in Iran, and a former political prisoner herself. Shiva was a student activist in Iran and was arrested when she was 16. She spent more than 3 years in prison. Following her release, Shiva continued her activities and, like many in her situation, had to flee Iran. She has been a refugees and women's rights campaigner and has worked with the International Federation of Refugees in Turkey. She then went to Toronto, where she was the coordinator for the Action Committee in the Defense of Women's Rights in Iran. She moved to the UK in 2001 and continued her political activism as the head of the public relations for the International Committee Against Stoning. She's a physiotherapist, a women's rights activist, and currently the spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners in Iran. Welcome, Shiva.
Thank you, Bobby. And hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Just to correct that I'm not a physiotherapist, I'm a psychotherapist. Sorry about that. Just so happy International Women's Day to all of you. I mean, I will take these few minutes and focus on Iran, obviously, but I would like to start with my own experience. I used to live in Toronto, Canada, and once I was interviewed by a magazine, and in that interview, I was labeled as a Muslim woman. So I was always wondering if, I think someone's for, okay. I was always wondering if instead of me, there was a Canadian woman, would they still call her, would they call her Christian woman? I didn't think so, and I don't think so. So I have been an atheist and a socialist all my life. I mean, as Bobby said, I was in prison for a few good years of my teenage time, and I've been tortured by Islamic regime. So they didn't even bother to even ask me, how would you like to be introduced? And they gave me the label of Muslim woman just because I was born in Iran. And in the recent years, I noticed that, I mean, thanks to the efforts of women's rights activists, and especially women from Iran and Saudi Arabia or Islamic-stricken countries, cultural relativism and their defenders, they really been strongly challenged. But you still see so-called women's rights defenders who are defending hijab or even celebrate hijab days. I mean, to me and millions of women in Iran, in the Islamic-stricken countries, hijab is a symbol of suppression and is a mobile prison. So defending hijab, in my view, and calling hijab as a culture of women in Iran is an insult to women, and it's actually siding with the oppressor. In 2015, some of you or all of you may have seen photos of Iranian women taking off their hijab and sending their photos and publishing on social media. And actually several mainstream media showed this picture and published it, which I think that was an important action to show the protest of Iranian women against hijab and the Islamic laws, obviously. But what the media actually didn't mention was that women in Iran opposed hijab and Islamic laws, not just from 2015, but from the moment the regime seized power in 1972. So 43 years ago, on the March 8, 1979, thousands came to the street and protested against hijab law. Hijab and the Islamic laws have never been our culture or our choice. I mean, if hijab and Islamic laws were accepted by women and people in Iran, then why such huge demonstrations were organized in 1979? And why hundreds of women's rights activists have been imprisoned? And the other point I wanted to make, that what is also not reflected on in media or not talked about, is that Iranian women have gone further in their fight. They have been fighting for women's rights, but at the same time, they have been active and influencing the current movement against the Islamic regime. They do that by organizing protests and strikes, by calling actually on people to protest against unemployment, poverty, child labor, and other social and political aspects. So we at the Campaign to Free Political Prisoners, we receive letters, statements from courageous women's rights activists who are in prison, and actually from prison, they call on people in Iran to protest. So in fact, currently, women in Iran among the leaders of the movement to overthrow the Islamic regime. And in terms of cultural relativism, I believe cultural relativism is a racist concept, and which mainly targets women actually. And it closes its eye on inhuman practices such as FGM and the crime of honor killing, and attacks the very basis of human rights. So, but I think cultural relativism exists because of the way capitalism system work. In capitalism, people needs to be categorized and divided, so some has less right than the other. So it makes it easier for the governments to legitimize and rationalize exploitation of millions of people. And historically, as you know, women's been the target of that. For example, the gender pay gap that is happening in all countries, including the Western countries as well. I mean, capitalist, can you hear me still? Yeah?
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear
Yes,
you.
sorry about that. Capitalism is based on class system, but I think it uses culture, religious, gender-based discrimination for its own benefit to separate us, actually. I think some of the speakers mentioned that. For example, in the society, we are divided based on what country we were born or what country our parents were born. So for instance, kind of imposing hijab on little girls in London, UK, where I live, can be ignored, and the government can just make an excuse for not taking any responsibility for protecting these little girls from religion. I mean, imposing hijab on children or forcing them to obey religious practices is psychological abuse. And this psychological abuse is tolerated actually and accepted by Western government under the excuse of cultural relativism. It just really, I mean, until just a few years ago, as you know, in many European countries, FGM, female genital mutilation, and also honor killing were tolerated and were non-legal actually, were not a crime. So it really, really makes me feel sick to hear that mutilizing powerless little girls around the world is tolerated and even rationalized, is unacceptable. But if I come back to Iran, I'll finish in a few minutes. When I come back to Iran, women in Iran have challenged cultural relativism by their fight against the Islamic regime and the Islamic laws. We in Iran never, ever accepted hijab and Islamic laws. We have demanded equal rights and have been fighting for it for the last 42 years, and even before that, actually. I mean, in Iran, the fight for women's equality is actually directly connected to the fight against Islamic regime. And at the end, I would like to invite you to join our fight against the Islamic regime, because I strongly believe, and I can prove it, that this is everyone's fight in the world. And I invite you to mobilize your forces against the religious tyranny in Iran. And I invite you to force your government to actually boycott the Islamic regime in Iran for committing crime against humanity in general, and specifically against women for the last 4 decades, more than 4 decades, and also for imposing misogynist laws and also gender apartheid on millions of women and girls in Iran. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiva. That was a great talk. And I think what you said definitely rings true. Next, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Huma. So Huma, she became the well-known leading person to stop Sharia court in Canada. Currently, Huma is the coordinator of the International Campaign for One Secular School System, coordinator of the International Campaign to close down Iranian embassies. She's the coordinator of the International Campaign against Sharia court in Canada. She is a founder of a charity in Ontario called Cultural Bridges Association. In the year 2006, she received the annual Toronto Humanist of the Year Award. And Huma has also been recognized as Woman of the Year by Gazette des Femmes for the year 2005. So Huma, the floor is yours.
Happy International Women's Day, and thanks for organizing this event. And thanks to everyone for attending this event. I would like to focus actually and evaluate the women's rights movement for the past 40 years and why we're losing in various avenues, and what can we do in order to become the backbone of the third pole, and I call it the left communist socialist pool, which pulls the woman towards the more progressive and also to a society with just, and demolishes the oppression, not only for women, but also oppressions in society. So as I said, my evaluation is regarding the women's rights movement, what's happening. I should emphasize that women's rights movements is not homogeneous. It consists of three pools. The pool that I'm talking about, which we all suffer because of this pool, is the right-wing pool. This pool is against any progressive changes. It is highly supported legally, financially, and politically by governments and religious institutes. They promote religion, tradition, culture, and nationalism. This pool is for religion, for religious schools, such as Catholic schools are funded by the government in many countries. Islamic schools are next in line. This pool is for all faith arbitration to resolve family matters and all civil matters, and water down the criminal matters, as Shiva mentioned, and so as Maryam. This pool is for Catholic, court, Jewish court, Sharia court. It is for cultural relativism, and is defended by this pool badly. It is for any religious movement and religious state by sugarcoating religion. This pool is first dividing people into different categories, then label these categories and tattoos those labels as identities of people. So my client Tahira, her identities are a woman based on her gender, not a person, a Muslim, simply because her parents came from so-called Islamic country, a Canadian Pakistani woman because she was born in Canada, but we shouldn't forget that her family, or they want us not to forget that her families come from Pakistan. A married woman, so that we need to know that what relationship she is in. The color of her skin is brown, so therefore the color should be part of her identity too. As a result, she needs to be more dissected in order to be recognized as a person. Now that this person is clearly known to public by all these categories and identities, she needs to be placed into a community based on these categories. And of course, multiculturalism has already created a space for her and her family and people like her. The whole community is divided in Canada to various communities based on these types of identities and categories. Now in Canada, we have Little Italy, Little Indian, Little Russian, little Pakistani, and so on. But wait, that's not enough. In Canada, we have more specific communities named and licensed, I'm not joking, after 195 states in the world, simply because these communities are not just based on ethnicity, but based on religion.
Shut the hell up, ugly ass.
Sorry? But
shut up, ugly ass.
Okay. So based on, it's not only based on ethnicity, but also based on religion within the specific state. For example, we have little Wahhabi Pakistani community, little Shia Pakistani community, little Sunni Pakistani community, little Mahdavi Pakistani community, little Ahmadiyya Pakistani community. So it's not just little Pakistanis. These communities are run by so-called religious leaders. They have their own sets of law and regulation based on where they originally came from. An assumption is that the population of these communities as a result, and based
ugly
on
ugly ass. Let me see.
Ugly ass bitch, what's up with that Russian bitch ass nigga?
Mute everyone, you know.
Bobby, can you kick some people out who've just entered the room to curse at the speakers? Maybe Homa, you can wait until they're kicked out.
Bobby, you can mute if you are the admin.
You can kick people out.
And don't allow anybody else into the room, please.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I'm trying
out.
to mute.
Being Zoom bombed by a bunch of
just kick them out.
Yeah.
Don't mute them, just kick them out.
Yeah, I'm putting them into the waiting room, but
okay.
That should be okay now. Sorry about that, Homa.
As a result, and based on their assumption, they push for minority rights to trump individual rights. This right-wing pull is pulling women's movement down, and it is the cause of losing some of the rights gained after 100 years of fighting. This right-wing, in this country, this right-wing caused us so much back, pushed us so much back by adopting cultural relativism.
Bobby
and
is a nigger, Bobby is a nigger.
multiculturalism. In countries so-called Islamic,
Nigger.
this right-wing pull is the cause of women losing the most basic rights, such as rights to hold passport, travel without husband or father's permission, right to live alone, right to have open relationship without fearing getting stoned to death, right to choose how to dress up. They are forced to cover head to toe. Hijab was pushed on them, and also on all girls as young as 4 years old. Shame on all the people who can hear it, see it, and not act on it. Because of the act of this right-wing pull in the West, we witness increase of honor killing, child bride, and I'm talking about for the past 40 years. So we witness increase of honor killing, child bride, forced marriage, child trafficking for the purpose of marriage, increase of suicide among young girls and women, and we face Sharia court in Canada, and now in England, Netherlands, and Australia, they're facing it. The next pull in women's rights movement is liberal feminism. This pull is for gender equality, but not the same gender equality you and I want. It is for women to become a shareholder, to become part of the capitalist system and be able to be elected as a member of parliament or to be a president. Their fight is to get more women elected in a parliament and hired as a director of top-ranked government agencies and organizations, and also large firms. They are for individual rights, rights to education, rights to have access to public health and affordable childcare, and rights for reproduction and gay or lesbian. But it's a big but. This but is, this pool is for moderate reform, as its existence is depending on limitation of equality between men and women. The third pool, which I'm so proud to announce that all of us here belong to this pool, is to end oppression of women, and that cannot be achieved without ending oppression of society. This pool is to end gender identity and all those mentioned identities based on gender, race, religion, culture, ethnicity, all that. It is for integration. It is for one system of education based on science. It is for publicly funded healthcare for everyone. It is for more equal society. This pool is at the forefront of any progressive campaign at the labor's organization, at rallies, and targets the root of injustice and discrimination. It is for universality rights of women and children. In the Middle East, targets all religion states and pushes for total separation of religion from a state. It's uprising against hijab in Iran by burning this flag of oppression, opened the path for women in the Middle East. And I'm so proud. Its turning point towards involvement in workers' strike and organizing workers' movement, and being actively involved as a part of labor's organization. It's present at a students' movement, its success to prevent Sharia court in Canada and everywhere else as it comes, and also its success and aim to fight against cultural relativism and multiculturalism and fight to gain integration and push us. This is the only way we can push aside the right wing and liberal pools. We need to be the backbone of this pole in every avenue. Right now, I'm so proud to say that in every International Women's Day, after those 40 years, after all this revolution happening, a spring revolution, uprising revolution, whatever name they have done, women's right is turning to this pool. And I strongly believe that in Iran, the uprising of this pool is going to, with the help of workers' movement, is going to bring down Islamic regime of Iran, not only in Iran, in whole Middle East. Long live International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Huma. Thank you.
Thank you, Huma.
Yeah, and we apologize about the bombardment you received.
That's okay. We got used to it. They kicked Mariam Namazi out of university. They did to Shiva. They're doing everywhere we go. They try to upside down these meetings and speeches. I'm not worried about it at all. Thank
But we
you.
still speak. We still speak.
Well,
thank you, Homa. Thank you so much again, Homa, for your speech, your talk. Some amazing information in there. And thank you for everyone that's here today, for all you strong, powerful women that are doing all the work that you have been doing and are continuing to do. We need more people standing up and speaking out and saying something, or else this shit just gonna keep going. Next up is somebody will be performing for us. Natalie, are you here yet? I don't think she's in the room. Heidi, Heidi, are you here? Okay, sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties. Someone cannot sign in. Okay, so it looks like we were gonna have a performance, someone to sing and play some music for us, but she doesn't seem to be able to get into the room. Next, we'll go to our next speaker. Sorgol, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sorgol. So Sorgol is going to be speaking next for us. She is a women's rights movement activist from Kurdistan. She is a member of the Central Committee of Left Workers Communist Party of Iraq. In 1998, she was the representative for Independent Women's Equality Organization, representing Halabja and Sharazur in Iraqi Kurdistan. In 1999, as representative for the Center for Defending Children's Rights in Kurdistan, she participated in the Journalist Conference. In the same year, she became the secretary of the same organization. She was the head of the campaign against the civil law, which is Kurdistan native, also based on Islam law at the time. Sorgol, thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for invitation, and I warmly thank. I'd like to congratulate you for March 8th, the International Women's Day. And before I start with my topic, cultural relativism, I'd like to give a brief comment about the meaning of the March 8th today. This day, as you know, is the embodiment of the struggle of women for their rights and human dignity. International Women's Day is the day of the voice and cry of suffering of women and their defiance for their humanity and dignity in the face of the forces that want to destroy this humanity and this dignity. The status of women in all parts of the world is bad. Relation to the degree of prosperity and wealth abundance. We still see women, even in the Western capitals, suffering from discrimination, whether in the wages or at home, the street, through gender discrimination and domestic violence. In the Middle East and North Africa, the status of women is much worse than the rest of the world. It is not only because she is unemployed. She is also a forced labor in her home. And she's a forced, and that's not at all. She is a forced labor without compensation, beaten, insulted, sometimes sexually by her husband. She is subjected to abuse by her brother, father, uncle, or any male, even sometimes by her son. Iraqi women live in the society which is ruled by the religious, sectarian, nationalist, and ethnic militias. Therefore, women face gender discrimination in its most extreme and inferior form. She is unemployed. She is a single mother, widow. She doesn't have a home to protect her. She cannot find a job because of the situation. And she is faced with a fatwa of Islamic Sheikh or Mullah. Forced to wear hijab and countless discriminatory decisions against her at home, the street, the workplace, and everywhere. Iraqi women have long suffered from tribal norms and honor killing. They have also suffered persecution and deprivation of religious by clergy in all Iraqi government. Even in Baghdad, which is a more civilized capital than the rest of the city in the region. Cultural relativism is a policy which is brought by the West and practiced in the capitals of Europe and the most civilized societies. This policy arose with the emergence of the New World Order. This policy is postmodernist in the sense that the principles of the modernity promoted in the 1940 and 1950 or 1960 have been defeated or pushed back since the 1980 and especially in 90s. The principles of modernism are summarized in defining the universal rights of women, in the sense that a woman are anywhere in the world can obtain the same rights and have the same rights and privilege that other women enjoy in other places in the world. But this cultural relativism has set new standard in the status of women. Now, culture represents a woman, and cultural represents society. In Iraq, the Shia woman is considered Shia despite her wealth and despite her opposition to this definition. It means women divided as a society divided to Shia, Sunni, Kurdish, Arabic, Christian, Yazidi, as so on. After the US war and the occupation of Iraq in 2003, America brought in so-called mosaic system, or the system of the religious and national entities. In fact, this system is greater than being a political system. The government as a whole became divided into religious, sectarian, national, and tribal militias. As soon as they took power, they began to pursue a policy of cultural relativism in Iraq. In most insolent form, divided Iraq into regions or canton, each canton ruled by the tribal sheikh, which is the leader of the religious militia, or a national ethnic militia. In addition to that, there are Kurdish nationalists in Iraqi Kurdistan who ruled by the national value derived from the Kurdish tribes. And they have established reactionary misogynist policy in Kurdistan, such as honor killing. In south of Iraq, the so-called Shia culture has emerged, where women are placed under the Shia political Islam.
Sargul, sorry, you're muted.
Okay. I don't know. Sorry about that.
You ended on political Islam.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Political Islam was. Okay. In addition to that, there are Kurdish nationalists in Iraqi Kurdistan who ruled by the national values derived from Kurdish tribes, and they have established reactionary misogynist policies in Kurdistan, such as honor killing. In the south of Iraq, the so-called Shia culture has emerged, where women are placed under the Shia political Islam. There are also what they call the Sunni woman, who was subjected to the rule of the ISIS. And this rule of Sunni political Islam in various regions of Iraq, such as Baquba, Diyala, and parts of Baghdad, Tikrit, and other areas. A Christian woman who was subjected to the clergy and male chauvinist and so on. The policy of cultural relativism is a policy of the utmost reaction. Unfortunately, Iraq is the focus of this policy. It became a stamp on all societies, including those of the West. As we see in the UK, France, Germany, Norway, Italy, Muslim women in these societies have become governed and subjected to the laws of cultural relativism and the so-called multiculturalism, until it came to the point that the Islamic institution wanted to push for Sharia court in a secular country such as Canada, subjugated by applying barbaric laws of Sharia. The Iraqi women today, after the October Revolution in Iraq and Kurdistan in 2020, have found the opportunity to advance their demands for complete and unconditional equality with men. Cultural relativism is an insult to women, a destruction of their social standing, robbing of their rights, and the consolidation of the misogyny on them. On this day, the International Women's Day, I say to all women in all parts of the world that cultural relativism is the hostile policy to us. And I say to women, Iraqi women, the cultural relativism means to impose on you her backward medieval values according to the will of the clergy, sects, and tribals. Women want modern and universal standards that women have reached in all other parts of the world. Long live International Women's Day. Long live March 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sargul. I really appreciate your talk. I'm just sorry about, we had some intrusion into our Zoom meeting, including in the chat room. So we try to limit that. So, and in my view, there were messages sent on behalf of some people who did not represent those people. It was, and Zoom, we know that it's easy to use and to infiltrate. And we are an open. So please ignore those messages. Do not even answer to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yes, it happens. You know, people want to come and ruin other people's day, but we're gonna still keep going. Next, we have a performance for you guys. Heidi will be performing a song for us. Heidi is a singer, a woman's voice radio host, and a women's rights activist. She will be performing her song for us. Heidi? Heidi, are you here? I think I saw you. You're unmuted. Heidi, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
How about now?
Good now. We can hear you now.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you now.
No.
It's working. Can you hear us? Oh, she's gone.
No, she muted herself again.
She's muted.
I don't see her anymore.
She's never.
Oh, there she is.
Heidi, unmute yourself.
How about now?
Now it's working.
It's working. Okay. It doesn't matter if I don't have your picture. Do you have my picture?
No.
Oh. Just it says, oh, here video.
You're muted again. Video's working, but you're still muted.
Unmuted. I unmuted.
There we go.
Oh, how about now? It's okay. I start singing.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi, everybody. I should say support for all your efforts and time you're doing for this special day, international special day. Anyways, I'm gonna start singing. جوانه میزنم به روی زخم بر تنم، فقط به حکم بودنم که من زنم. چو هم صدا شویم و پا به پای هم رویم و دست به دست هم دهیم، از ستم رها شویم. جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری، به همدلی و خواهری، جهان شاد بهتری. نه سنگ و سارها، نه پای چوب دارها، نه گریه های بارها، نه ننگ و آرها. جوانه میزنم به روی زخم بر تنم، فقط به حکم بودنم که من زنم باید زنم. چو هم صدا شویم و پا به پای هم رویم و دست به دست هم دهیم، از ستم رها شویم. جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری، به همدلی و خواهری، جهان شاد بهتری. جهان شاد بهتری. سپاس.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
سپاسگزارم for having me. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Again,
you.
happy International Women's Day, especially for Persian women and Middle Eastern, all over. Thank you for having me. I have to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. You have such an amazing voice, and we were very lucky to have you perform for us. We are also very lucky to have another performance, another singer. Next performing for us is Daughter of the Moon. Daughter of the Moon is a soul folk singer living in Vancouver. Her songs are often share stories of women, the 2SLGBTQ community, and the natural world of non-human beings. She creates with the hope of reconnecting to her own roots and inner truths. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you. Hello. I hope you can hear me okay. We were having some difficulties on the computer, but so now I'm on a phone. If this sounds all right. Thank you so much for having me. I'll play a couple of songs for you. The song is called Hummingbird and the Wolf. Brave and bold, like the wolf, dying light passed by the window. You are but a bird, and wings fold around the barrier that surrounds my heart. I wonder where we go when the heart slows, and I bet that fear could be fed to the wolves. Hummingbird is free. She lets her wings unfold. Her heart can interlace what her hands can hold. In the whirling winds I see a broken road, and these fallen trees of debris are my only home. Can it be that we got lost out to sea? Or do you wait for me on an island
Yo, ahora sí es poquito. Yo,
She is a beautiful home with the earth all around her. Her heart is a hand that holds everyone who is a mother inside of me. You are the one. Call out to me. My heart will heal your soul. My heart will heal your soul.
Thank you. It's so interesting with technology, and you know, I hope that next year we'll get to be in person. So,
We'll see
do you
what
want me to
happens.
play another one, or do you want me to wait?
I think if you want to play another one, let's go for another one.
Okay, great. Let's do it. Yeah, and really happy Women's Day, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I've played, this is my 3rd year playing, and yeah, it feels very special to be invited to this event. This is a song I wrote last year called Lost Myself.
I became the whole heavy load. I became one whole heavy load. When I lost myself, when I lost myself again, when I lost myself, when I lost myself again, I couldn't find you till after a while I knew. And all our losses, under the wild I grew. When I lost myself, when I lost myself again, when I lost myself, when I lost myself again, I've become who now, and become it's so simple, but I lose my way in it, an interruption. I feel a rush there too. How to feel this is why I lose it all in time, drop it and die. is why. This is why. Until I find myself, until I find myself again, until I find myself, until I find myself again, until I find, until I find myself, until I find myself again, until I find myself out on the road and I'll find myself again. And this is how we run. This is how we run.
Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Thank you, Natalie. That was amazing.
Thank you.
You
Thank
were
you.
so talented.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Natalie. That was beautiful. Okay. I'd like to go on to introduce our next speaker, Rowan Moon. Rowan, she's a writer. She's a writer, is active and works in Vancouver Association for the Survivors of Torture. She has a lot of experience in the humanitarian field. So Rowan, the field is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm very happy today and proud to be part of this celebration. And also I need to mention that I was offended by rude comments on the chat. That's not supposed to be happen here. And I want to say shame on you. And you know yourself. I don't know who you are, but shame on you. And this is our celebration and we are here to speak. Even if you don't like what we are saying, but we are here to speak. So if you don't like what we are saying, go and leave. My name is Rowan. I'm working for VAST, Vancouver Association for Survivors of Torture. And I will start my speech by talking about the differences between refugees, being refugee and being an immigrant. And I believe there are many of you here in the room, they know the difference between being a refugee and being an immigrant, but I know also there are many of you, they don't have an idea. Being an immigrant means you have your own choice to leave your country. You put your own plan. You have a clear idea about your future. What the country you are gonna to go. You gather all documents, you gather all IDs, all passports, everything is done. On the other hand, being a refugee, that means you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice to leave your country. You have been forced to leave your country because of many reasons. These reasons may be different kind of persecution on the basis of religion, political opinion, gender identity, etc., etc. Having said that, and based on the statistics, all refugees, like 100 out of 100, are considered survivor of persecution. So, and we know the women and girl are like almost half of refugees. And we are aware about the barriers and about the challenges that face women in the new country. There are many barriers we are faced here in the new country. We have problem in employment, housing, financial insecurity, lack the knowledge of the Canadian system, access to the mental health support, access to resources, all of these things, like challenges we face every day, and we are advanced. We know, and we know about these challenges, and we provide support to survivors. And now today, in the Women's Day, I'm proudly will announce the new program, which specifically designed for women to be an advocate. Like women's, the name of the program, the name of our new program is Women Survivor Advocate. And if you would like to be an advocate, and if you would like to work in the advocacy field, so please feel free to send me your email and say, hey, I'm interested to be an advocate. I would be very happy to have you in our new session on March 19. And yeah, and being working in the advocacy field, like you should to be responsible. You should speak up for those who face challenges, for those who face problems, to be voice for those who don't have. So please feel free to, sorry, I know the chat now is disabled, but maybe we can find some, I don't know, maybe some people will help me in that. I will send my email to everyone. If would like to join me to this session, I would be more than happy to have you. This is specifically program for women. Okay. Another point I need to mention here, the two magical elements. When you are a newcomers in the new country, and if you would like to be survived and thrive, you should to work on having strong foundation. And this strong foundation, in my opinion, would be like two magical elements. The first one is education. And another one is language. So language and education, both they are magical element that will support you to thrive and to survive. When I arrived to Canada, I have very, very broken English skills, very. I worked a lot on elevating my English. And please, my friends, and this is message to women, to specifically for women, work in your education, go doing workshops, training, being involved in conversation, English conversation circles. And we know that many of newcomers arrived to Canada with no access at all to any, even to, like they arrive with zero, with zero level of sorry, I was distracted by something here in the screen. Some people, they arrive as a newcomer to Canada, for example, with no education at all, because they are living back home in country in armed conflict. And we know the armed conflict area are like, there is no education to anyone sometimes, and specifically for women and children as well. So they arrive to the new country with no education at all. So please work in your education, and please work in your English, because this, if you work in having strong foundation, you will get access to a reliable job. And if you get access to reliable job, you will have sustainability in your life. I think everyone would love to have a sustainable life in your country. And I don't want to take so long. I know there some people feeling bored sometimes, too unfortunate, but I would say to women today, believe in yourself, be socially connected, be proud of yourself, be proud of your gender, celebrate your gender. You are the source of life. You are the beauty of life. Be proud of yourself. This is my message to all of you. And please feel free to send me a message. I will put it in the chat right now. And if you would love to be involved in Women Survivor Advocate, and if you would like to be an advocate, please send me an email. Don't hesitate to send me an email. Thank you so much, and happy Women's Day to everyone.
Thank you so much, Rowan. I definitely try to put it into the chat. I'm not sure if the chat is completely disabled. If not, we can re-enable it so that you can put it into the chat. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Daria. I do believe she is here. Yeah. So Daria was born in Ukraine and moved to Vancouver in 2016. Currently, she's working in finance and supporting both human and animal rights. She's a vegetarian activist, and she believes that everybody should have equal education, especially financial. She's strongly focused on bringing more women into the financial industry and decreasing the gender gap that has existed there for a long time. So Daria, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. And I wanted just to say, together with Rowan, actually, this is not the first time when somebody's interrupting women when they want to tell the truth. And when we want to say something, everybody has something to say, and they constantly keep stopping us from whatever we want to say. So we are used to it. So we don't really care what's happening outside. We don't care about that noise. I don't even, value those comments or anything like that. You all are very inspirational. I was listening to all of you. I haven't met any of you, but I actually get really inspired from each of the ladies that spoke today. You're incredible. Keep doing whatever you're doing. Today, this is International Women's Day. In my country, it's a huge event, huge. You can't even imagine. It's a celebration not only of mothers, daughters, sisters, everybody. And, I think this is the day when we not only have to teach our male companions about, encouraging and supporting women, but also women itself. When it comes to supporting, we have to hold each other's hands every step of the way. From my own experience, I somehow or another, every time I got a job, I was in male-dominated industries. I was in engineering, I was like in finance, or even automobile industry, every time in male-dominated industries. And of course, I've faced a lot of discrimination. And I'm not going to go into details because we're going to be sitting here all day. And the fact is that taught me so much how much I have inside of me to bring to all those male-dominated industries. And even right now, I'm working as a financial advisor. I see every single day how much the female talent is underutilized in a business resource. I'm going to bring a little bit of statistics. There are 46% of women are employed in financial industry, 46%, but only 15 are at the executive level, 15, and 46 are generally employed in financial industry. It is very challenging for me personally to work in that industry and to try to break that mold of, to be a middle-aged man or to be older man. It is very challenging to fit into male-dominated environment. And when I started working there, I actually decided to change that in a way that I was creating my own way. So I wasn't trying to fit in. I was trying to be my own person and do the great work on my own terms. So, and I wake up every day with like excitement because I know I'm changing other people's lives and the lives of their families. You can't even imagine how undereducated people are, even in Canada, when it comes to finance, when it comes to supporting their families, and especially women, because at the end of the day, who is taking care of the families? Women are budgeting their families' finances. Women are taking care of the money in families, but they're not absolutely like on 100% level educated how to work with money and how they can manage that in case anything happens. Because if we have a saying back home, if there is a disaster happening, talk to a woman. Because we know how to deal with difficult situations. We create that safe environment for people. So when this is my way of bringing a female to male-dominated industries. Every single day, I encourage women that I work with to be unapologetic, absolutely unapologetic in every way they're working. Whatever they deserve, they need to ask for it. They need to work for it. You can have a home, you can have children, a husband, and you can have a career. You should never feel like you have to choose one or the other. You can have both. Every time I come to work and if I see a new female partner, I get really excited. Even if it's not on my team, I still get really excited. But it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't. And I tend to change that. I'm changing that all the time. And I'm so happy I have a team that is helping me to do the same thing. And I encourage every single one of you and every single outside of this Zoom meeting to do the same. It's good to have conversation. It's good to have these celebrations. But if we don't act on it, if we don't enter those male-dominated industries, we'll never change that. We have to do it. We have to first educate ourselves 100%. We have to make strong, bold moves when it comes to entering those environments. And we have to ask for what we deserve. It's enough already to just simply talk about it. If you want it, you get it. And mainly, I think the most important thing is we have to support one another. I've faced a lot of challenges cooperating with other women, and I hate the fact that we don't support 100% each other. And for me, this is one of the most important things in the world. I hold my partner's hands all the time if it comes to mentorship and leadership. So I think we own this support to women, to everyone who fought for our rights before us. We own this to them. And I greatly appreciate everybody who fought for us, all the Middle Eastern women. I'm with you all the way. And thank you very much for all you've done. That has been a hell of a fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daria. That was very, gave me a lot of hope, very inspirational. That there are women out there helping each other, looking to help each other and looking out for each other. And I think when we do that, we all succeed and we all do better. Thank you for that. Okay, guys, our next speaker is Alexandra. Alexandra is originally from Colombia and has lived in Canada for the last 11 years. She is the founding member of Fuerza Migrante, a non-profit organization dedicated to organize and support migrant workers in BC. Alexandra has participated in several activist groups in Vancouver around issues such as free trade agreements, mining justice, and housing justice, and participated in a collective of Colombians in Vancouver in solidarity with social and environmental leaders and the peace process in Colombia. She is currently working at Co-Development Canada as program assistant. Welcome, Alexandra.
Thank you, Ovi. Thanks, everyone. Excited to be here today, and and very fortunately we were successfully we successfully stopped the people that were trying to sabotage the event. So my work supporting and advocating for temporary foreign workers is in regards to what Patty was talking about, those migrant workers in Germany. So their experience is very similar. So these temporary foreign workers have come to Canada for decades to work in all industries. They come alone without their families. You may see them serving food in Tim Hortons, Denny's, as janitors in office buildings, as cooks in hotels, caregivers taking care of children and ill people, workers on farms, and so on. So they come from the global south and countries like Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Jamaica, Morocco, Tunisia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Solomon Islands, etc. And they come, of course, with different cultures, different languages, different histories, but pretty much with the same dream, and is to provide for their families. In Canada, they face, as temporary foreign workers, they face huge vulnerability to labor exploitation and unsafe living conditions. They come with a temporary work permit tied to one employer. So complaining or speaking up against labor conditions can easily turn into cancellation of their employment contract, deportation to their home countries, and being blacklisted from the temporary foreign worker program. So that means eliminating any possibility for them to return to work in Canada. So this usually happens without the possibility for the workers to appeal or be listened to. Migrant farm workers, specifically those working in the agricultural industry, also endure employers' abuse and mistreatment on the farms. Negligent and scarce support from government authorities, Canadian government authorities, and from their own countries, and from other institutions that are supposed to protect the rights, health, and well-being. Those working in this industry on the farms find themselves in many occasions in a more difficult situation because they work and live on the employer's properties, creating more possibilities to an absolute control of their lives. And on top of all this, women migrant workers, in addition, face gender violence. For instance, we've seen Canadian society attempts to take control over these women's bodies when they get pregnant, or if they get pregnant, sexual harassment from employers, supervisors, or coworkers without any possibility for these women to complain, or moral judgments on their self-determination on who they are or who they want to be, violation against their privacy with gossips and unsolicited comments that make their lives a public matter. These and other factors are part of their daily lives in Canada. But despite this, incredibly, with a fire inside them that cannot be put out, these women resist, organize, and fight back. They speak out and demand to be treated with dignity like human beings. They fight complaints and stand up against those who abuse them. They leave the prison-like conditions they endure and seek refuge with nothing on them but perhaps a small bag with their clothes. They come to marches, they welcome people like me in their homes and tell us their stories. They join and form their own organizations to protect and support each other. And sometimes they tell their employers to go to hell. Today, I remember all the women workers I have met, their families, the moments that we spent together, and those who have fought back. There is so much that is wrong in this country and needs to be fixed. We still need to explore more how to better include a feminist perspective to our work with migrant workers. But I take inspiration in the warmth, joy, and gratitude that these women have shown to us when we stand together with them. So fuck all the systems of oppression, fuck the patriarchy and misogyny, and for all the anti-racist and anti-trans homophobe, anti-colonial and anti-capitalist, non-cis women out there fighting for their dignity. Thank you.
Amazing, Alexandra. Thank you so much. That was incredible, beautiful speech. Thank you. Next, we are very lucky to have a performance from ASOS Mahmoud for us. ASOS is a poet, a writer, a musician, humanitarian, an activist who was born in Iraq, Kurdistan. He has been publishing poetries and articles since 2008 and was a leading music groups and humanitarian organization since 2009. ASOS has worked with local and international organizations such as UNAMI, Internews Europe, UNHCR, UNESCO, and United Nations volunteers. After ISIS war, he focused on helping refugees in Iraq and Syria and made an international networking to provide food, clothing, and shelter for refugees. Also was part of a project, was the project manager of Back to School campaign for refugee children to continue their education in the camps and in their temporary home. Welcome, ASOS. Are you here, ASOS? I just saw him.
He's here, but but he's not talking for some reason.
Okay, then I guess we will move on to the next speaker and wait for ASOS to be ready.
So our next speaker is Eli. She is a student and women's rights activist. Is she here? I don't see her. Oh, there she is. Yeah. Eli.
Hi everyone. Happy International Women's Day. I'm just gonna start now. Culture and traditional beliefs in most religions countries are the most important factors in discrimination and inequality between men and women. In religion countries, especially in countries such as Iran, this inequality is very common. In today's Iranian society, cultural inequalities and discrimination have been imposed on women in the name of formal, social, and religious laws. Islamic laws have been stamped with legal approval. These unfair cultural laws are mostly rooted in the laws such as legalizing children marriage, the right to divorce, the right to custody of a child, freedom of dress, ban on women entering a sports stadium, women inheriting less than men, polygamy among men, and restrictions individual freedoms. Also, in some cases, freedom of education and work. There are clear factors for inequality and discrimination between men and women. In the religious and patriarchal society that delegates power to men. The Islamic government has established the promotion of injustice and the recognition of laws as a right but unjust framework for the control of society. For a healthy and non-violent life on this great day, we declare our connection with all women's movements in the world, especially the free women of Iran, who have been fighting for more than 40 years for freedom and equal rights. Iranian women have been in prisons. They have endured physically and psychologically, and they have been tortured, and some of them have been executed. They never give up, and they said no to anti-human laws that have been imposed on them in the name of law. In the hope of victory for the freedom-loving women of Iran and the world. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you so much, Ellie. Sorry, I realized I just said your name wrong. I believe it's Ellie. So I apologize for that. Beautiful speech, and thank you so much for that. Next, I would like to introduce, whoa, it's a lot of hail here all of a sudden. Next, I'd like to introduce Rajveer. So Rajveer is from Punjab, India, and she will talk about women's rights in her community.
Hello, everyone. I think you can hear me. Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Rajveer Kaur and I'm from Punjab, India. And today, first of all, happy International Women's Day to everyone. And today I want to raise the concern about the women in back in my country, specifically about the widows and how the society is shaping their lives. As we see that as you can see, like India is like male dominant country is one of them, and still there are nothing like really done for the women's, I believe, because there are many small towns in the state there from where I'm from, and there is a lack of education, and like there are still no proper opportunity and proper system for the all the, you can say, women's and children's to study and to pursue their passion. And I can give the example of my own aunt. She's widow and she's facing a lot of complications from the society, and there is also so many complications for those women that have husband and they have source of money to pursue to support their living and to support their life and to support their children's life. But if we talk about widows, they don't have the source of money and they have to face those complications. They have to work in the farms, they have to so their children have to stop study and they have to work in the factories and or like the labor jobs. So those complications that those people facing is, I think, I believe those women, they are suppressing their passion and also their voice. The society is suppressing them, and there's no proper system. And so today I want to use this platform to raise the concern about those women back in my country, specifically the Punjab region, because that's where I'm from and I want to speak for my people. It's not because I'm being biased, it's just like I want to stand out for those that I belong. And yeah, that's all today from me. I just and also I want to thank to Mr. and Mrs. Sigarchi for giving me this opportunities to speak up. And this is like my very first time speaking about women's or like any kind of like a movement or the protest I want to do or I want to implement in future. And also there is I want to mention this, there's protest going on in India for the farm bill, and government, it's been 100 days. I suppose it's 101 today, including today, and government they didn't have any action taken for those for farmers, and they are sitting on the roads, and it's been 100 days and more than 100 days now. And I want all the world to pay attention to that too, because there are lots of people there, like there's more than 1 million people sitting on the road and then protesting for their land to save their livelihood and to save their future of their children. And that's all from me, and happy Women's Day to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajveer. That was amazing. For your first time especially. Thank you for speaking up, speaking out and speaking up. We need more people to be doing what you're doing and, trying to stop all this injustice that's going on everywhere. So next, luckily we have ASOS that was able to join us. He will be performing for us now. ASOS, whenever you are ready, I've already given your introduction. Everyone knows who you are. Whenever you're ready, you can start.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear to me? Sorry, I had some technical issues. That's why I was late. But yeah, hear my music all for you. Thank you very much, and happy International Women's Day again.
Thank you very much, Asos. Can you introduce the name of your instrument, please, for us?
Yeah, it's originally from Middle East. It's called Oud, O-U-D. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Asos, for that beautiful music.
Glad to see you here again.
Yeah, thank you. And it's nice to see male figures in this room for sure. It's always nice to have
Pleasure.
supporting us. So thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Lozan. So Lozan Yamolke is the author of 3 poetry books. Lozan was one of the recipients of the Distinguished Poet Award from Writer International Network Canada in 2018, and the Peace Treaty was the first prize winner of the 2019 International Rabindranath Tagore Poetry Contest. Lozan is from Kurdistan and immigrated to Canada in 1995. Currently, she is finalizing her 4th collection of poetry titled Hush, Let the Silence Speak. So she will be giving us some of her poetry today. And I believe you have a video from her. Masood, we can't hear it.
Masood, you have to unmute yourself. You're muted.
This is the ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, and I am very thankful to be on this sacred, beautiful.
We can't hear you, Masood. The volume is too low.
And I am Kurdish, was born and raised in Baghdad. I came to Canada in 1995.
Sorry for what it's all the way on the end, 100%, but I don't know what happened.
Masood, maybe I can try playing it from my computer.
Sure.
Okay.
If you have it there.
Thank you.
I think this is the last one, right?
Yes. So we're just going to hear Lozan's poem, and we should be ready to. Maybe I can try. Okay. Do you all see this?
Yeah, it started.
Oh, it's not coming. There's no sound. I'm guessing you don't hear it?
The sound on the video is off, it looks like, on the right side, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. Let me try again. Sorry, I'm just going to try again. Yeah, there's no sound coming. Masood, can you try from yours again?
Question, I think you need to click sound sharing as well while you're doing the video sharing. You need to click on it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let me try that. No, nothing. Yeah, it's not working.
It's okay.
Masood, can you try again?
It's not like, I think if you can put the link in the chat, people can see it on the web, on the YouTube too. She put it on the YouTube today.
Yeah, there's no sound coming.
Maybe we should stop.
Yeah, so what we can do is, so Lozan actually recorded that video for us this morning. So we can do is we can put that video in the chat and it's on YouTube and everybody can feel free to view it on their own time. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. And so that concludes our event for today. And I just want to personally thank each and every single person who came today and was a listener. Thank you so much, and it's very inspiring for me as a young person. It's very inspiring to see and hear all the great things that you're all doing, and it's nice. And I definitely look up to you all as amazing role models. So thank you for being here and being so resilient and continuing to fight on behalf of women all over the world. So thank you. And I'd just like to open it up if anybody would like anything to say. I see a few people have raised their hands. Definitely the floor is yours. Abbas, would you like to speak?
We have another music, Break the Chain. If you would like, we can.
We can do that later, yeah. Okay. I just want to open up the floor to anybody who wants to say anything.
Okay.
I just have a question. How those people, the intruder, can go to the room? How?
So what had happened was, I guess, when we shared I guess people were sharing the link to the WhatsApp, or sorry, not the WhatsApp, to the Zoom. And what happened was we were under the impression that it was just normal people, normal listeners. But then when they entered the room, we realized they were spammers. And so we kicked them all out.
Okay.
We did not know that they were spammers. We just thought they were going to be listeners.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this wonderful program. I was told that someone under my name was rude to Homa Arjamand. She is a wonderful buddy of mine, a good friend. I'm proud of her friendship. We have worked on Sharia law, against Sharia law in Canada, and we both are secular humanists. It wasn't me. Somebody used my name to attack her. She's wonderful, and thank you very much, Homa, to be here. Take care. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Rowan, I think you also had your hand up.
No, I don't raise my hand.
Okay. Yes, Homa, you'd like to speak? Oh, she was saying bye. Okay. Would anybody like anything to say? The floor is definitely yours. And if not,
I raised my hand.
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to briefly make a point. It's only we know there is a discrimination against women around the world, but this is not only the point. Comparing Europe and North America to Africa or Middle East, there is lots of opportunities for women here, but we are not talking about this point only. The point is about living in 21st centuries. What makes important is the labor, equality for the labor. Women as a human being has to work in this society to feed themselves, the family, especially for the single moms and the kids and the education. Who determines the labor? The capitalists. It's not about the hijab. Hijab is very important, okay, because under the hijab, under the Taliban in Afghanistan, they dismissed women, the teachers,